Max Verstappen joined the Red Bull Junior program when he was just 16 years old and came into Formula 1 in 2015 with Taurus as one of the youngest drivers and became their youngest point scorer, obviously, at that time. Jumping 1 year forward in 2016, he moved to Red Bull in one of the most shocking, strangest, and, to be honest, a very thrilling ways, obviously, which just spiced up the whole season when he did all that train place malarkey with Danny Kvyat. But obviously, we've mentioned that so many times in just 2019 alone. Obviously, since then, he's pressed on with Daniel Ricciardo and obviously his new teammate of this year of Pierre Gasly, obviously getting some good results in the pros, especially obviously with Daniel Ricciardo, with obviously some big wins coming. Obviously Red Bull's doing really well in Malaysia, obviously one of the best wins he's had, including a stat that I do not think will ever be beaten, or for a very, 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 very long time, to be honest, not even until we get to the 2000 Grand Prix. And that stat is obviously the youngest race winner. He won the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix at 18 and a half years old, the youngest winner in Formula 1 history, beating out Sebastian Vettel, obviously, which was, I think, about 2 years older than him. And as I say, yeah, obviously an amazing race. Both Mercedes collided in that race, and I don't think that stat will ever be beaten. But obviously, you all know that. If you want to check that out again, obviously, you know where to go, the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix review. So obviously, in this episode of the F1 Debate Show, we're going to be talking about Max Verstappen and his time at Red Bull. Now obviously, as we just said, he's been at Red Bull for a good few years now, obviously since 2016. Obviously round 4, which is obviously what we're heading into at the moment, obviously Baku, his year, you know, it comes forward at this time. So obviously it was around 2016, 2017, 2018 and 2019 he has been at Red Bull, which I think is 4 years if I can do quick math. And obviously in that time, you know, some great wins, but he has never been able to achieve what he wanted to do, well, when he came into Formula 1, obviously, which is to win the Drivers' World Championship. Now, when he came into Formula 1, there was a lot of people out there, a lot of keyboard warriors, a lot of people in the media, a lot of Formula 1 fans, and even Jordan on the other screen, who said Max Verstappen is going to become world champion, possibly, well, some of them said in 2016, which was a bit stupid. 2017 was a little bit more realistic, but still, you know, only 1.5 seasons at Red Bull. And yes, John did say in 2018 Max Verstappen was going to be world champion in that year. Now, obviously, that hasn't happened yet. In the 4 seasons that he's been at Red Bull, I think he's been a foreman for 5 seasons at this time. Obviously, great driver, you know, 21.5 years old. Obviously, he's still got a lot of time to do that. So in this episode, me and John are going to be talking about is he going to win the world championship in his career? Obviously, as I say, only 21 years old, you know, he has got such a big future ahead of him in Formula 1. So is he going to win the World Championship? And more importantly, is he going to win the World Championship with Red Bull Racing? Is the Honda team from Milton Keynes got enough power, got enough finance, got enough in the car and enough backing in the team to get the Dutchman to a World Championship position? Obviously, since Max came into Formula 1, it has been Lewis Hamilton, it has been Nico Rosberg of Mercedes, it has been a Silver Arrows German domination. Obviously, before that was Sebastian Vettel, also a German. So he hasn't really had a chance to shine, but obviously he has been breaking through those big walls when the others have failed. As I mentioned, 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, he won when they both retired. So obviously he definitely has some great potential and power in that car. For many of the years, for many of the seasons, he really was best of the rest. It was the 2 Mercedes, then it was Max, and to be honest, even Max on his own. Obviously, we all knew Daniel Ricciardo was a great driver. Pierre Gasly, okay, we'll leave him to the side for just a moment, but, you know, Max wasn't best of the rest. Very much so in 2016, he was best of the rest. If you remember that year, as I've just literally just said there, you know, it was the 2 Mercedes and then Max Verstappen, and obviously Red Bull Racing as a whole. You know, Mercedes won all but 2 races in that year, and have a guess who won the other 2 races? Yes, obviously that was Red Bull Racing. One of those was Verstappen, one of those was Ricciardo, with obviously Verstappen coming second. So it was a great season for them in that year, and obviously he definitely hit the ground running. See, since then he's kind of calmed down in the car, being kind of best of the rest, but also kind of having Ferrari in the mix, obviously with the Kimi Räikkönen obviously getting consistent points, Sebastian Vettel really doing, you know, a big wavelength, up and down, up and down, up and down. Again, we did talk about him in F1 Debate Show episode 112, so go and please check that out, obviously, to find out what we think about him. But he is always, Max Verstappen has always been there. There really hasn't been a time when he's Riley dipped. He's always been there, he's always been 3rd and 4th in the World Championship and always ready to get it. So he's been at Red Bull for 4 years. He's always been finishing really consistent points. He's been getting on the podium quite a lot, and he's had a good few wins. Obviously, not as many as he would want. He has made some mistakes. For example, like in Monaco 2016, when he crashed in qualifying and the race. Obviously, a fortnight after, he had just won his first race with Red Bull, and obviously became the youngest winner, as I've just said. So he has made some mistakes, but nevertheless, he has been a consistent, fast, and very impressive driver. And in these 20 years, is he going to win the World Championship? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to kick it off and say, yes. Of course, Max Verstappen will become world champion. Now, as I was saying, John, he is only 21 years old. We've seen Formula One drivers, surpass 40, match 40. Michael Schumacher retired when he was 41 years old. Obviously, he did take a gap in Formula One, but he retired when he was Formula One after 20 years in Formula One, obviously in and out. Rubens Barrichello, again, I don't remember how old he was, off the top of my head, but again, he was like late 30s, early 40s. Kimi Raikkonen is obviously going for 40-year-old. He's going to surpass that in about 2 years in the sport. So Formula One drivers are finding that they can stay in Formula One for a lot longer. And it's not just F1. There's many sports where you can start young and stay there for a long time. Obviously, just look at football. Some of these people now are coming through when they're 16, 18, 20 years old and retiring when they're 45. So, you can be in there for a long time. And as we just said, Max is 21. To be in a Red Bull when you were 18 and to still be in a Red Bull when you're 21, a big championship contending car, not winning, contending car when you're 21, of course he's going to have another 20 years on him. That is definitely a given. So, for the first question, is he going to win the World Championship? Well, of course he is. I think that's quite easy. And I think I know what Jordan's going to say as well, but obviously you have to wait a bit to find out what he says. Obviously, the second part is he going to win with Red Bull Racing? Now, my answer is yes, but not yet. Obviously, as you know, the regulations change in 2021. Now they are supposed to make the cars more simplified and obviously change up the engines. Basically, the biggest change that we will have seen since obviously 2014 when it changed to V6 engines from V8. Obviously, at the moment, we have had a regulation change, obviously, into the 2019 season. And I can guarantee we're going to have a few more every decade or so in Formula One. Obviously, the change of Honda power has been good for the team at the moment. A bit mixed in terms of what they expected, in terms of what Honda expected, but nevertheless good from them. Obviously consistent from Verstappen and good point finishes from Pierre, including the fastest lap last weekend, 2 weeks ago in China. So, but it is only their first week, so their first year using the Japanese engine. So obviously, wait a few years, see what they can do, hopefully work with them, possibly get somebody else in. But this is the team that shaped Max Verstappen. He was in their junior program, while he was growing up. He was given everything by Red Bull. He was given a jump to the big team when nobody expected him to. I mean, me and John, we had no idea. To be honest, I will admit here, and I have before, that we didn't even really understand Max Verstappen that much before Train Place actually went on. And I was actually in the corner of Fiat saying, why is this even happening to the Russian driver? He is good. He has just podiumed at the Chinese Grand Prix, which obviously was the 2 races ago before this happened. So I was like in the corner of him, not understanding Verstappen, but obviously now you do definitely understand. So just to kick this episode off, I'm going to say yes to world champion and yes to world champion in Red Bull. Not sure when that'll be, but obviously a few years down the line. So obviously that was just a quick prediction from me. Thank you very much for watching the F1 Debate Show. We will see you next time. I'm just joking here. So obviously now I'm going to pass over to Jordan, obviously bringing you into the first time in this episode. Max Verstappen, obviously brilliant prodigy from Holland, 21 years old, obviously younger than me and you, which is absolutely insane. So 2 questions. Obviously, will he win the World Championship in his big career to come? And will he win it with the team from Milton Keynes?
I think he will become world champion at least at some point, because as like you said, Lyle, he's been in the sports since he was 17 years old. He's certainly going to have a long career in Formula One. Depends who it's going to be with. Obviously, we don't know that just yet. So world champion, definitely without a shadow of a doubt. He's got the speed. He's got the talent. Like in his previous years, a lot of people have been doubting whether he can go all the way to become a world champion, because of, I think it was 17 and 18. He would put in some really not so good displays. like, you know, lunges that were just unnecessary. He would just randomly spin the car, he would be crashing, or he wouldn't put in the performance when it really mattered. And a lot of people were saying, is Verstappen just an overhyped driver that we've just thought, right, when he came into the sport, it was like, oh my god, you know, young guy coming into the sport, is he going to be world champion? Yes, he is. You know, he is quick. And then then for us to go, oh, like, I don't think he is going to be that good. But the start of the season, he certainly showed that he does have the speed, he does have the consistency to be able to do so. There is still a long way to go, don't get me wrong, and he has still a lot to learn. As like Lyle said, he's only 21 years old, and you know he's competing like over a handful of races. I don't know if he's hit the 100 Grand Prix mark yet. I don't think so, but he'd be close to it if he hasn't. So obviously, I'll imagine that he would be going over 300 Grand Prix and probably beating Rubens Barrichello's record. At the moment, it's Barrichello's record. Obviously, Kim Raikkonen could be taking that record, you know, next year or two, should he stay. But you know, Verstappen should be going for these records. Like, you know, most race wins or most world championships or whatever, because he has got the length, you know, he has got the career length to do so, longer than likes of, you know, Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Like, obviously, Max Verstappen is currently 21 years old. I think Vettel won the championship at 22 or 23. I think it was 22, and Hamilton won his at 23. So Verstappen's already got 4 years on him, but before the likes of Hamilton and Vettel won their first world championships. And I think Hamilton was in the sport, you know, only a season or 2 seasons rather, and Vettel was in the sport for 2.5. So obviously Verstappen's got, you know, the leg on them, if you like. But obviously, yes, I believe he will become world champion. I'm sure a lot of people will agree with that. Will he become champion with Red Bull? Now, this is a question that I would say it's quite difficult to answer, because, like, obviously, just coming into the partnership with Honda, and as I said in the preview, you know, Honda haven't had a bad reputation with McLaren. Went to Toro Rosso, kind of like, you know, got a lot of people talking, going, all right, I don't think Honda are that bad. You know, they're starting to understand that, you know, the engine, the combustion engine now, you know, and how it works. And then 2019 rather, was like, right, you know, obviously Red Bull coming with Honda was quite surprising, and then this season they've actually shown some consistency. No reliability problems as of yet. One driver doing really, really well, one driver not doing so well. Obviously, nothing to do with Honda whatsoever. And you know, and Honda have been quite impressive. You know, Verstappen currently sits third on 39 points, 2 points ahead of Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari. So Honda is not doing too bad. And as I also did say in the preview, that if Ferrari do slip up, Red Bull are going to be that team to pick up the pieces, and Honda do have the reliability to do that. And again, consistency. That's where this all stands really. Consistency, and Honda are proving that. Next season to win the world championship, I doubt it. I can't see it happening, to be honest. I can't see Honda gaining that much speed in that space of time. Obviously, prove me wrong, you know, but from what I'm seeing, I can't see it yet. 2021, and that is a big change, because obviously the engine regulations changed once again. Big ones as of that. Hopefully, you know, better cost, you know, better dishing out of the prize money to other teams, so maybe the teams could come into the mix as well. We know that Racing Point, they could be up there in the future. Renault, there could be one in the future. So, you know, Honda, if they do want to become world champions, not only do they have to, you know, focus on trying to beat the likes of Ferrari, Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes, but they've also got to, you know, make sure that none of the teams behind them overtake them, who could potentially do so. Like I said, with Racing Point, with like Lawrence Stroll's money, and Renault, because, you know, they've been quite consistent. Bad start of the season, but as I said, we've only had 3 races, so obviously let's not count our chickens just yet. But to answer the second part of the question, I would say no, that I don't think Max Verstappen will win the title with Red Bull. Now, why I say this is Max Verstappen's contract runs out in 2020, which is obviously the same time as Vettel's does and the same time as Hamilton does. Now, those two will be on everyone's lips come the end of next season, because obviously a lot of people have said that Vettel is going to retire at the end of the season. We obviously spoke about this last week. We said no. A lot of people have said no, it would be ridiculous if he does so. And Hamilton also said, well, Hamilton will see out his contract, despite, again, rumours that he's planned for retirement, he's planned for this. So obviously those 2 contracts, you know, by 2020 could be available should either one of them leave. More than likely, Vettel will leave. And eventually they're going to be looking towards the future. So for Ferrari, they've already got the young prospect in Charles Leclerc. Will they build the team around him? and get maybe someone with a bit more experience until another one of their young drivers comes along. Prime example, Mick Schumacher. Is he going to be in the helm? Will Ferrari wait for him to come into the ring, or will they go for somebody else? Now that by that somebody else, I think Verstappen, that he could possibly go to Ferrari, because if you get a phone call from Binotto or whoever at Ferrari and say, right, we want you to drive our car next year, and only a fool would hesitate at that. To be fair, you know what I mean. So, and obviously, Ferrari will dish out some good money. But apart from that, to drive for Ferrari is probably the biggest honour. But I would probably say the second biggest honour than winning the championship. All right, I didn't win the championship, but I drove for Ferrari in my career. That is, just as well, not just as good, but that is still brilliant at the end of the day. Verstappen won't. I can't see him ruling that out if they do approach him, because I think Ferrari will, and should he go there, I think that's where he'll win the championship, and I think that's where Ferrari will once again dominate, having Verstappen and Leclerc in the same team. That will probably set the cat amongst the pigeons, definitely. I can say a lot of inter-team squabbles there, definitely. I think that could be another big rivalry, like Alain Prost, Prost Senna, Hunt Lauda, and all that. That could be one of those ones in the mix. But on the other side, you've got Mercedes, who are again Bottas. Will he sign next year? More than likely he will. If he doesn't, who's going to replace him? Ocon is probably the favourite, but if they don't go for Ocon, who else are they going to go for? Verstappen. But you could say, right, why would they put Hamilton and Verstappen in the same team? Because that's just not going to work. So more than likely Ocon would take Bottas' seat. But I can't say Bottas leaving, so then the attention will switch to Hamilton. So Hamilton's contract runs out in 2020. I don't know if he would retire, because, well, if he does retire, I won't be surprised, if I'm totally honest. But do I think he'll retire? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to answer that just yet. But let's say he does. So again, Mercedes are going to be fishing about. So you take their current situation. Obviously, you will probably turn around to us and say, oh well, they'll almost replace Hamilton with Ocon. I don't think so. I don't think Hamilton will take. I don't think Ocon will take Hamilton's seat. I think they'll look at Verstappen, because he's got connections to Mercedes from what he did in when he was in karting and when he was in Formula 4. I think he raced in before he came into Toro Rosso. And obviously, there's been rumours that Toto Wolff and Jos Verstappen have been on the phone with each other, and Jos Verstappen has pretty much just rubbished those claims and said, we are not in communications with Mercedes whatsoever, and it's all load of Red Bull. And Toto Wolff has said that, all right, we are constantly on the phone. But I think Mercedes have had words with Verstappen's people, Verstappen's agent, Verstappen's whoever, or his management rather, at some point. And I think Ferrari might have done so as well. Maybe not sort of like, right, let's sit around the table, let's discuss contracts. Let's just go just right. All right, let's watch the race. Oh look, Jos, I think your lad wants to race for us. Would you ever consider him driving for Ferrari or driving for Mercedes? So I think there has been words, said. And let's say Red Bull aren't where they should be in 2021, which Max will be assessing definitely. But let's say they're not, and then let's say he stays with Red Bull and all goes south, then Verstappen's going to be one of those drivers where he not only will he win a championship with Red Bull, he would have missed that opportunity altogether. And that for me would be a waste of a talent. But like if Ocon doesn't do anything, that'd be a waste of a driver, if you like. Like nothing came about from like such a young talent. So like I think will he go to either Mercedes or Ferrari? I don't know, but he will certainly be looking at those options and pretty much put him in a stance where similar to what Daniel Ricciardo was like when he said no to Red Bull and said yes to. Well, at first he didn't want to be a Red Bull. He was looking at Ferrari, Mercedes because more so Ferrari, because he would have known that Kim Raikkonen would have been leaving at the end of the season. So, and then obviously that seat didn't become available. Mercedes pretty much announced their drivers quite quickly, and then Ricciardo was left with, right, I've got a Red Bull. Oh, I'm just going to have a spike with Renault. And for me, I don't think Verstappen would take that chance and go to, like, let's say if Racing Point were on the rise, or let's say McLaren, would he go there? I highly doubt it. Even if they were up there, I still think he wouldn't do that. I think he would take the easy option and probably go to the likes of Mercedes or Ferrari, because they would take him more so than what Daniel Ricciardo would. the chance that Daniel Ricciardo go in there now than Verstappen. I think they would take Verstappen and probably build the team around him, or even the two drivers. So I think he's got a better chance of going to Ferrari in the coming years, but I can also see him at Mercedes. And those teams won't fall in the regulation change. Well, I don't know about Ferrari, but Mercedes definitely won't. I think Ferrari. I don't think Ferrari will as well. And it'll all come down what Red Bull can offer him. Because will Verstappen will he want that chance of risking it, or risking of a potential world championship by going with Honda, and then let's say right, Honda, they stick with Honda throughout for 2021. And then the car, as like I said, is absolute shambles, and then he's going to be sitting there going like, "Oh my god, like this is abysmal. I've signed a multi-year deal, put my whole trust in Red Bull, and this is we're not delivering." And then we're going to be back. We are going to be back with this scenario of, is Verstappen a waste of talent, or was Verstappen too young, or Verstappen's not good enough in all this, or he would just jump ship and probably not so much take a risk, but I would probably take the safer option and go to the likes of Mercedes or Ferrari, which I think he will. And more so, I'm going to predict that he might go to Ferrari. I think that's where he'll end up. Him and Leclerc would be a good partnership, and I think that's where Ferrari's future would lie. But then again, thinking about it, they've got Mick Schumacher in the ranks, and I think he will go there. Maybe not so much. It won't go next year. The year after, I don't know. But at some point, Mick will be at Ferrari. So then again, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to say Mercedes. I think he'll go to Mercedes. He's got a better chance of going to Mercedes than he has done at Ferrari. So in my opinion, I'm going to say Verstappen will win the championship. He won't win it with Red Bull, but he will win it somewhere else. And I'm going to say he will win it at Mercedes. You might think I'm absolutely barking man at this, but that's what I personally think. I mean, Lyle, let's say Verstappen doesn't win the championship with Red Bull, and let's say he moves. Who do you think that he would move to, and would he win the championship at that given place? Obviously, just coming off of what I just said.
Obviously, I mean, well, firstly, obviously, yeah, John. I mean, I think being at Mercedes is a great thing for Verstappen. There was a lot of talks about him, especially when I mean, this was a very strange rumor. Obviously, when Nico Rosberg retired at the end of 2016, but I did hear. Well, I mean, to be honest, we all heard everything. I mean, we all heard that Pascal Wehrlein was going to do, but I remember seeing just some keyboard where he's just saying Verstappen might have taken that seat, but that would have meant he'd have been at Red Bull for about, he'd have come in at Red Bull in Spain and then gone straight to Mercedes. So, but I do think that would be great. Obviously, he has had a few years at Red Bull, so actually, quickly, John, just before I talk, obviously going to Mercedes would be great. Lewis Hamilton has got no sign of retiring. Obviously, Valtteri Bottas, very much so, no sign of retiring. Again, like you just said, obviously big talent in Formula 1. Then also you've got Esteban Ocon, obviously a young driver. So if Verstappen went to Mercedes, who would he be replacing? Would it be Bottas or would it be Hamilton?
Well, when I was discussing it there, I was more or less saying if Hamilton retires, that he would take that seat. But at the same time, you don't know how the contract situation at Mercedes, how will that unfold? Like, Bottas might drop Bottas and replace Verstappen, because even though Bottas is doing really, really good, and they've got no option, no real chance to drop Bottas, there might be pressure from Verstappen's side saying that, right, well, we want to get a seat. And to be fair, I think they would drop Bottas in a heartbeat and get Verstappen, and have Hamilton and Verstappen within the same team. But then that's going to create the problem of let's say Hamilton signs another 2-year deal. Who's going to have that number one status? Like, will Verstappen yield to Hamilton? If you like what we've seen in 2018 with Bottas yielding the race lead for Hamilton, will Verstappen do that? Absolutely no way, and that's going to create a lot of problems within the team. And I think that if Mercedes do have those two paired up, if Hamilton signs another 2-3-year deal, it's going to be there will be fireworks and there will be a lot of problems, and it will probably cost Mercedes points in the constructors as well, because let's say Hamilton, right, okay, I'm gonna go and try and overtake Verstappen, and Verstappen's like, no, I'm not giving up my lead for Hamilton. Absolutely no way. I'm here to win. And you've got that, and you know how Verstappen would be. He's always said no before. Remember, was it Singapore 2015? It was like, Max let Carlos through, and he was like, no. He was like, no, Max, please do it. Like, he'll be like that. Even though he was 70 at the time, like, he's still going to be like that. He's still going to be a hot-headed Verstappen who wants to win the championships. And for me, as like I said, having those two there would be an utter disaster for Mercedes. I mean, but you've got both good drivers, but both who want to win the championship. Bottas is there to win the championship, of course, but he's not. Or he has expressed disappointment before, but he's always stood by with what the team said of like, right, I will do what you say. Whereas like Verstappen, I don't think he would. However, if you have Verstappen and Bottas, I think that Bottas would still be that number 2 driver, and the team would build the team around Verstappen. And maybe Bottas has another year. We'll see out the last of his deal. Let's say he signs another deal for the end of 2020, and then he goes, right, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And then they bring in Ocon, and then you could say, right, okay, that's a better situation. But then you're going to have 2 young guys in the team who both want to win the championship, who both have history. Let's not forget Brazil 2018, and they're going to be taking each other off the track. So Mercedes have got to judge that situation quite well, and just hope that they do have the right drivers at the right time. Should, let's say, Ocon comes in the team, but they might not get Ocon. They could have Mick Schumacher in that team. Who knows? They could have somebody else. They might have someone with more experience in that team. You know, it's all like, it could be this, it could be that. We're just trying to create like a bit of a timeline here, and just kind of like predict what's going to happen. So really, to answer your question now, I would say that I would say it would be Verstappen and Bottas at the team, but beyond that, I don't know. And if it is Hamilton and Verstappen, then I think Mercedes have made the wrong call. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people watching this will agree that it will just cause huge tensions within the team. You could see a Vettel situation where we've got the experienced driver. All right, Webber wasn't a Hamilton. You know, Hamilton's a 5-time world champion, potentially 6. If this situation does happen, and then he's going to have more say. He's going to have his say in the team, and Verstappen's going to be like, no, I'm not having this. Multi 21 all over again. Multi 22, multi 23, multi whatever you want to call it. Multi Verstappen if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So it will cause problems. So I would say, as like I said before, Bottas and Verstappen would be the ideal partnership should he jump ship to Brackley. What would your predictions be? What would you see? That would be the question. Or the answers.
Right. Well, I mean, the big team, and to be honest, I was thinking about this just as soon as you mentioned them. Obviously, 2016 trading place. Obviously, me and Jordan are absolutely fascinated with that. Obviously, I've mentioned absolutely loads before. And the big team that came out of that, which obviously alongside Red Bull, and it was a rumour, but then it was a really strong rumour, and it was also confirmed, obviously, after he'd actually gone to Red Bull, and obviously this didn't happen, which was that Jos Verstappen, obviously Max Verstappen's dad, was in talks with Ferrari at that point to get him in the Ferrari Junior program. So obviously the story was, I mean, again, it's still a little bit, it's still, it's still got a bit of rumourlicious still in it, if that makes sense, but, the story was that in 2016, obviously Max Verstappen, he was too good at Toro Rosso. I mean, he was having a lot of backing, he was having a lot of funding, obviously a lot of news coverage, especially in Holland. Obviously, the big thing is, if you've got to remember, obviously the Netherlands absolutely loved Max. It was like a big revolution, back in Formula 1. Obviously, the Dutch people were back in Formula 1. They actually had someone from, obviously, the Netherlands. They had Jos, but Max he brought something else to the table. So obviously, he went through that. And Jos Verstappen, obviously, he was a big, he had a lot of discussion, obviously, with Christian Horner and people like that. Obviously, also Max and people that supported Max, and one of the big things is that they said to Red Bull, right, okay, we want you to put him in the car, and they almost made a bit of a kind of a thread by just saying that if Max Verstappen wasn't going to drive for Red Bull, he was going to drive for Ferrari, or that we were going to take him out of the Red Bull Junior program and put him in the Ferrari Junior program, obviously hopefully getting him to drive for Ferrari. So obviously since then, Max has definitely had a love interest with Ferrari. Obviously, I mean, like you said at the start, John, who wouldn't? Obviously, it's the big red car, obviously one of the most successful teams in Formula 1, obviously been there for almost 70 years. So, I mean, there'd be no reason why he wouldn't want it. It would be absolutely crazy to pass up on that offer. If obviously, I've already said at the start, I think that Red Bull will win his World Championship with Red Bull. Obviously, probably down the line, probably Pierre Gasly might have moved on at that point. probably, a different engine supplier might be in the team. Obviously, like John's said before, obviously Aston Martin.
Yeah, I've always said
possibly could
Aston
come in.
Martin.
Well, they're already in Formula One. Obviously, there was talks about them creating an engine. Obviously, they do obviously make very successful road cars. So maybe they can come into Formula One and make an engine for Red Bull. Obviously, a big sponsor like they are. But nevertheless, and they might return to Renault. Honda might get a better, it's I mean, you've got Lamborghini, Koenig, it could go any way, but I do think that it will take a good few years at Red Bull. But yes, John, obviously, as you say, if that doesn't happen, where will he go? I mean, also, he could win the World Championship with Red Bull and do a Sebastian Vettel and go somewhere else. He could do a Sebastian Vettel in this instance and go to Ferrari, which obviously is the team that I think that he will go to after Red Bull. Now, again, like literally I've just said, it's got nothing to do with winning, hungry for the World Championship. He could win it with Red Bull. He could win multiple, very much like Sebastian Vettel. He could win 4 and then go the next season like Sebastian Vettel, but I think that Ferrari is a big shout for Verstappen.
I don't think he'll really spend his entire career at Red Bull. I think he will move ship, but again, who will that be?
Well, I mean, John, his career is going to be almost 20 years. So I mean, we could see like Hamilton GP in coming into Formula 1 in 2030.
He could win the championship with a team that doesn't even exist today. They might not even be on the radar yet. They might come in the sport next 10 years and do what Braun did and just absolutely blitz the championship for a year. Who knows? We just don't know.
I mean, to be honest, like with Jenson Button, for example, Jordan, he was at more established teams like BER, Honda, obviously McLaren afterwards, but he won the World Championship with Braun, who very much so were a team where they didn't exist before 2009, they didn't exist after 2009. Most people probably even heard of it, so it's kind of like that, I guess. But yes, Hamilton GP might be waiting for Verstappen to win his World Championship. But yes, obviously Ferrari, big team that Max has definitely had interest in before. A lot of the talk was around 2016, and I do think that Verstappen will go there eventually. It's a big call. I mean, as I say, no one in their right mind would pass up a drive for Ferrari. And just switching the topic from Verstappen again, going to Sebastian Vettel, who we talked about in the episode before. In episode 112 last week, we said about, is Vettel ready for retirement? Now, again, like John said, a lot of people said no in the comments. We said no, we were very sceptical, but his season isn't going the way he thought. He is getting on a little bit. I think he's the same age as Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, he's had a lot of experience in Formula 1 over 12 years. And it will probably be curtains for Sebastian Vettel in the next few years. I mean, my guess, I'm going to put my money and say 2020 is when he's going to retire. And very much like Jordan just said, obviously, about Hamilton retiring, and that's who we replace at Mercedes. I think that Vettel will retire, and Verstappen will replace him at Ferrari. Now, again, that's a little bit of a tight window to say that he will win his World Championship at Red Bull in that time. But in terms of who is on the grid at the moment, who would go to Ferrari, who's ready for Ferrari, I can't think of anyone else that isn't Max Verstappen, if that makes entire sense, John, because obviously you have got people like, Romain Grosjean, Sergio Perez, people that are kind of in that Ferrari line, obviously drive for, who have either in the junior program, drive for Ferrari, subsidy, secondary team, or, have big ties with the Scuderia. But I can't think of anyone else that isn't ready that's not Max Verstappen. So I think that when Vettel retires in a few years' time, I think that Verstappen will definitely be there. Obviously, to partner Charles Leclerc, obviously, who is a big junior, who's a driver that's coming through. Again, he's 20 years old, so that's a year younger than us, almost 2 years, I think, for Jordan. So
add to the misery.
He's very, very young.
Old.
And Max Verstappen, he will be the older of the two. He'll actually be older than someone in Formula One, and then obviously
that would be a spicy lineup
in a few years' time.
That would be a spicy lineup, Leclerc and Verstappen. That would cause massive fireworks. If that does happen.
Oh, definitely, it'd be great. Those two of Ferrari will be really, really good. And I think Jordan, Mercedes, I can't see Verstappen going there. I can't see him doing a Ricciardo, which is what Ricciardo did, which obviously is supposed to go to Renault. Ricciardo took a gamble. Ricciardo did a gamble. He went to Renault when they were very much a midfield team. Obviously, being at Red Bull, he was a bit of a championship contender. I don't want to say anything bad about Ricciardo because I know we have a lot of Australians watching, but he kind of has taken himself out of contention a little bit, or made it a bit harder for himself going to Renault, or if you like, it might be a gamble like Lewis Hamilton when he went to Mercedes. But I don't think Verstappen will ever do something like that. I think it will be either Mercedes or Ferrari. Obviously, yes, very much stay at Red Bull for a few years, possibly win a World Championship, possibly not, maybe for a long career, maybe for a short career, but he definitely won't stay there, as Jordan just said. But it's going to be those three teams, or again, like he's just said, it might be a team that come into Formula One who's like a big gunner from the start, like Hamilton GP, for example.
His dad might form his own team. I mean, everyone's dad seems to be buying teams here, there, and everywhere.
Verstappen F1. Do you know what I always thought, right? I just want to say on an unrelated note, obviously Lance Stroll's dad, Lawrence Stroll, owns Racing Point, or he's a shareholder in Racing Point. I have always thought that in the next few years we're going to have a team that's called Stroll F1.
That would take some getting used to.
Stroll F1.
I mean, to be fair, calling them Racing Point for like a brief moment at the end of 2018 was like, all right, we'll use the name for now, and then they're still holding Racing Point. For me, I hate that name, Racing Point. I absolutely, I don't like it, mate. It just sounds like, do you know when you play these like cheap knockoff F1 games on the side, when you've got like Ferrari, my personal favorite was Michael Schumacher. That's my personal favorite. When you're playing these like knockoff racing games on your computer, on your PlayStation or whatever, that's one of those names where it would come up like an unofficial licensed name team, Racing Point. It's just so cheap and naff, and I'm like, you could have done so much better. I mean, it'll wear on us, but Racing Point. I mean, come on.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, I don't know what ties they have with India anymore. Now, obviously, that their owner Vijay Mallya obviously is let go of the team. Obviously, now it's the Canadian national anthem, which will be the what represents the team. So again, they've kind of, I think they've got rid of what was Indian about the team. But yeah, you're at Racing Point. I don't know where I stand about that, guys. Obviously, what do you think about the name?
We've changed the
subject. Do you like it? Do you love it? What should they call it? Should they call it F1 debate?
Yes, that would be a good one.
Obviously, leave your comments down in the description what you think that'll be. But yeah, John, I just thought Stroll F1 might happen. Verstappen F1 might happen, but yeah, you never ever know. But yeah, anyway, just Verstappen. No, I think he will be one of the top three teams. What I've just said, obviously, I think that he will win the World Championship. It will be with Red Bull, but then as a secondary team where he'll go, I think that it'll be Ferrari. I don't think he'll look at Mercedes just because. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's just my personal preference. And again, you would never go from Mercedes to Ferrari, which obviously a lot of rumours are for drivers. That's a big no-no. And again, that might just be for me, but that is a big no to say you will never go from Mercedes to Ferrari. That's like going from a rival. That's like going from Liverpool to Manchester United, two big rivals. You would never, ever do that. But I guess Red Bull Racing and
unless
Ferrari's fine. That's like going from...
But we won't talk about that.
Unless you might have... Yes. Oh, God, yes. He obviously was a bit disliked in Merseyside after that. But yes, that was very strange. But yes, Verstappen... win his World Championship with Red Bull and then goes to Ferrari. Because, I mean, Charles Leclerc, how great would it be to see those two partners at Ferrari? I mean, John, just quickly, obviously bringing you in for the last time, we know how good Charles Leclerc is, what he's done. Obviously, he has hit very unlucky, but he did get that pole position. He did beat Sebastian Vettel to the punch in Bahrain. And those two, I mean, how great would... Let's skip ahead a few years. Give Charles Leclerc let's give Charles Leclerc some experience, hopefully a race win or two, probably a few more. Verstappen, hopefully a few races, wins, obviously with a Honda power, but he has race wins and he has experience with him. So let's move a few years ahead. It's 2023, it's 2021, right. And it's Scuderia Ferrari, and it's Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. I mean, just give me a brief kind of rundown of what that team is going to be like.
I think that'll be utter carnage. I mean, a similar situation. What it would be if Verstappen and Hamilton was at Mercedes, because you're going to both want both their drivers are still going to want the championship. But if you have two drivers who aren't going to win the championship, who haven't won the championship, which by 2021 I believe Leclerc nor Verstappen will be world champion at that stage. Well, Leclerc, I don't know. he's definitely got a better chance than he has at Red Bull. Verstappen does. But let's say obviously both of them line up on the grid or at Australia, Albert Park, five red lights go out, and it's a new era for Verstappen and Ferrari in Formula One in general. And I think that season is just going to be highs and lows. It'll be all right at the start, and then literally I would probably say about this stage, the next 2-3 years, it's just going to just plummet. And there'll be media about, all right, Ferrari are going to walk away from Formula One. Leclerc, he's going to walk from the team. Verstappen's going to punch Leclerc in the face. Bernotto's just going to come in and punch the two of them apart. Reiten's going to come in and just get some alcohol and just smash it into the table.
Well, to be honest, there was when Charles Leclerc came into Ferrari, there was people saying that he was going to be like that with Sebastian Vettel. But I was just going to say quickly, Jordan, about what you were saying about being utter carnage. It's you remember Mercedes with Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. They pushed each other to the max Verstappen, and they obviously disliked each other for sure. I mean, you could definitely tell that. If you entered the country of Spain after they crashed, you could feel the tension in the air. You could cut it with a butter knife. It was absolutely insane. And I think that they will help each other. So, for example, if it is carnage, like you just said, if Leclerc and Vettel, Leclerc and Verstappen, battling all the way through the season, that might help them because it'll push them to the point where Ferrari are streets ahead in the World Championship. They've the only rivals are those two in red, and only one of them will be world champion. And yes, it might be carnage, a bit of entertainment for us, but that will only mean that one can be.
Certainly.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But that will only mean that one can be world champion, and we could be seeing a good few years of Leclerc and Verstappen. Or it could go the other way, Jordan, and it could be, like Leclerc stays out the way of Verstappen, or vice versa.
I think those two
they're
definitely going to be up there fighting for the championship, whether they are within the same team or separate teams. But I can see some others coming into the mix as well that that we could see have good potential. For example, like Lando Norris has got good potential. George Russell, not at Williams, but let's say with someone else, he's got potential to become world champion. Let's say kick Bottas out and Hamilton out in 2020, bring in Russell and Verstappen, because Russell's a driver I totally forgot about, given like a mention. But for me, I think Ocon's got a better chance of Russell getting that seat. But that can be for another video, because I don't want to complicate things.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to mention it here, but I think George Russell for sure. Yeah. George Russell is a Mercedes junior driver, but he's been at Williams, and I don't think Toto Wolff is going to be happy at all with how Williams are actually doing. And I think if George Russell finishes the year, which he will, reliability, it might be good from his part, and he is a fast driver, because obviously we watched him in Formula 2 and we watched him as a Mercedes junior driver. He was really, really good. But I don't think he will be promoted to Mercedes anytime soon if Williams are still as bad as a team as they are in the last few rounds. And I don't think he would get into Mercedes any faster than Ocon would, or even Verstappen in your situation, Jordan. I mean, obviously, no offence to George Russell, but I think his time, unfortunately, is just to stay at Williams and improve with the team, which obviously is easier said than done, because a lot of that is out of his hands. But I don't think it would be do a season at Williams, finish at the back every time, and then go to Mercedes. Obviously, in your situation, Jordan, I think Ocon would be probably first dibs at Mercedes. If one of those either goes or retires. But obviously, as you just said at the start, if Verstappen wants to go there, he would be the first guy that they would choose, because it's Max. I mean, you couldn't ever pass on an opportunity to have him in the team. Do you agree?
Well, I wouldn't. To be fair, if I was sitting there as Mercedes manager, I would try and get Verstappen in my team. I mean, because he is quick, he's improving, he's a good driver. I like him. I am a fan of Verstappen. But I'm also a fan of Leclerc. But I'm also a fan of Ocon. So, you've got that. You have got a bit of a tricky situation. But again, it all pens down to, it's not you want the two quickest drivers, but you want the two quickest drivers that are going to work together. And we've seen scenes in the past where the teams have, these two teammates have came together, and Spain 2016, where the rivalry is just overboiled and stuff, and obviously in some situations they've got lucky. For example, Multi 21, that could have ended in catastrophic fashion. It did in a way, but they both could have crashed out. So you do want two really good drivers, but two drivers that are going to work together. And will Ocon and Verstappen work together? I mean, they might do. That's what I'm saying. It's only a prediction. They might do, but I don't know. I doubt it.
But I'll tell you something, that would kick up a really... Because, I mean, everyone would
because
obviously
Verstappen's quite
mention
fiery.
Brazil 2018.
He's got that fiery temper, if you like, where he's like a no, don't push me around type of guy. And if you do, I'll get my dad onto you. Yeah,
definitely.
like how we got the Red Bull seat, but yeah, never mind.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so obviously that was obviously. I mean, Verstappen has got some big chances and big opportunities, obviously wherever he wants to go. But the big thing is, John, I'm just going to ask you one last time, just yes or no. What do you, Max Verstappen at Red Bull Racing, world champion, however long it is, world champion? Yes, because this is a team that, yes, it's. I mean, obviously a lot of drivers like Lewis Hamilton, for example, if he said, I think he's been there since about 13 or something. Max Verstappen, he entered the world of proper racing Red Bull Junior program and entered Formula One in 2015 through F2 and F3 and all that stuff. He's basically been brought up with Red Bull. Yeah. So, do you think he would win a world championship with basically the team that raised him? Or do you think he'll have to kind of do something where he'll be like, okay, you guys have raised us, but I'm going to have to say goodbye to you because you're not giving us what I want. And he's going to go to somewhere that, he doesn't really have a big emotional tie to like he does Red Bull and obviously win the championship there. So before he goes to Mercedes, will he win the world championship at Red Bull?
Well, if he stays for, let's say, 10 years, he's got a chance. He's got a good chance. But again, that just depends where Red Bull are in terms of the engine situation, whether with Honda, Aston Martin, or somebody else. It depends what the package that they provide for Verstappen. Will he agree with it? Will he not? Red Bull could always go backwards if you like. So, but if Red Bull keep on the path that they are now, I think eventually they will become world champions again. Who will be in control of that car on that day or on that season? I don't know. But I think that Ferrari and Mercedes will be sniffing about Verstappen because he's got a lot of potential, a lot of prospects. Red Bull will do everything they can to keep him, but I think obviously the money at Mercedes and the honour of driving for Ferrari will probably tempt Verstappen over driving for Red Bull, even if they do provide him or do say, right, this is going to be the package, this is going to be the plan. Do you want to be a part of it? And then he might go, well, no, because I'm going to go to Ferrari and I'm going to become one of the many names or the many great names that I've drawn for that team. Even if they've got, let's say Ferrari have got a worse plan than Red Bull, I think Verstappen will still jump to Ferrari, and I think that will happen a lot sooner than what people are expecting. So, if Verstappen does stay with the team on the long haul, yes, he will eventually win the championship. I don't want to say a year, but I can see him going to Ferrari quite soon. But I would say at least 3 years, even if it is after 2021.
It depends which seat. It depends which seat really opens up. And obviously, the big thing is if Verstappen's going to win the world championship is if Mercedes and Ferrari ever, slip down the order. If Red Bull catch up, but it's also if Mercedes and Ferrari slip, because obviously at the moment Lewis Hamilton is obviously running away with it on track for 6th. But anyway, guys, that is obviously the end of our episode today. Obviously, talking about Max Verstappen, a big guy to watch in Formula One. Obviously, where's he going to go? He has a lot of choices. But he's probably not as much. He probably isn't as hyped as he was when he came into Formula One. But he's still definitely a big driver to watch out for. And obviously, how will he do in the team from Milton Keynes? Obviously, really excited to watch ahead of round 4 in Baku. So obviously, thank you very much for watching today's episode, guys. Obviously, make sure to put in the comment section obviously everything that we've said in this episode. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Tell us why. Where do you think Verstappen will go? Do you think he'll go silver and Mercedes, or do you think he'll go red and Ferrari? Do you think he'll follow the legacy of Formula One and go Ferrari, or do you think he'll follow the up and coming, new raw pace of Mercedes? Obviously, it's all really exciting to see. What, and obviously, do you think he'll become world champion? Obviously, leave us a like. Obviously, subscribe, especially if you're new around here. And obviously, until the next F1 Debate Show, guys. We'll see you later.
See you later, guys.